How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. I'm your host, Kenneth to break down the Yankees and the Mets, the remaining games from over the weekend in their first series of the season, of the young season, and then talk about what transpired last night. Mets picked up another win out in St. Louis. I'll actually be in St. Louis end of May, going with some buddies of mine. We're going to Cubs Cardinals, so it'll be the first time seeing Busch Stadium in person, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, Mets picked up a win last night. Devin Williams, first save opportunity for the Mets and pitched very well, so that's encouraging for the Mets going forward. Bo Bichette picked up a hit last night, a couple of ribbies after he had a rough weekend. His first series as a Met, experienced a lot of booing, but he did have a nice comment after one of the games saying he's surprised that it took so long for the Met fans to start booing Bichette. But you know Bichette, the type of player he is, he's going to get it going with the Mets. The defense at third, yeah, it's a work in progress. Definitely a work in progress. I'm going to leave it at that. As for the Yankees, they did lose last night. They did win the final game against the Giants, so they completed the sweep. Will Warren got the start. Looked pretty good. Didn't give them a ton of length. Again, these guys are still not fully built up yet. So he got taken out pretty early, and the Yankees pitching staff did the rest of the work there. Pitched very well. They did surrender the Yankee bullpen last night. They gave up their first run. It was a walk-off RBI single by Cal Raleigh, who actually didn't start the game. The Mariners were kind of giving him a day off to kind of get his mind right because he's gotten off to a slow start. But he did come in later in the game to pinch hit, got out, but in the bottom of the ninth inning, he came through with the RBI single off of Paul Blackburn. Ryan Weathers got the start for the Yankees last night, and wasn't great. In the beginning, you could tell was having issues with his command, but he definitely settled in as the game went along because he did start off the game walking Brandon Donovan, the first batter. In the bottom of the first inning. But again, he settled in, and you could see, and even David Cohn, he was speaking very highly of him on the broadcast last night. The Yankees might have something with Ryan Weathers. And, he's going to get an opportunity. He's going to get some runway to kind of show what he's got and continue to improve because, it's going to be some time before Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon come back. But Yankees pitching in general has been lights out. But, of course, with this loss last night, the talk has been, well, it's on Aaron Boone for leaving Paul Blackburn in. Why was Paul Blackburn pitching in that situation? It's all on Boone. Listen, the reason why the Yankees lost last night, everybody, it's because they couldn't hit. They didn't get a run until the seventh inning. They benefited from some miscues by the Mariners in the field. Stanton trying to stretch a single. I mean, it wasn't really a single, but tried to stretch an error by the Mariners in the field into a double. It was a pop-up that should have been caught, but ended up being dropped. Stanton tried to get the second and ended up getting thrown out. Stanton's been one of the few Yankees offensively that's gotten off to a great start. I mean, another multi-hit. I think he's had a multi-hit game each time in these first four games. So it's very nice to see him getting off to a good start because there are times where Stanton, either isn't playing to start the year or he does get off to a slow start. Here, he's off to a fast start. He's been the Yankees' best hitter so far. I mean, a lot of guys are kind of struggling out of the gate. Mainly Aaron Judge, of course. Jazz Chisholm's gotten off to a bit of a slow start. Austin Wells, after a pretty good game over the weekend against the Giants, had it with a couple of hits on opening day. He's kind of, hasn't really gotten it going with the bat. Ryan McMahon, same thing. We're hoping that, he gets the bat going. Also, not the best throw over to Ben Rice late in the game, although wasn't the reason the Yankees lost. Again, the Yankees offensively, it kind of went unnoticed because the pitching's been great, and they swept the first series of the season. But yeah, the Yankees bats have to get it going, and they will eventually. They will eventually. It isn't going to be like this, for the entire season. I mean, Aaron Judge definitely is going to wake up. And some of the other guys, like I mentioned too, Jazz Chisholm as well. But yeah, I mean, that's ultimately why the Yankees lost this game. They didn't hit. They were getting no hit pretty much the whole game. And then, finally, at first it looked like it was going to be an error because Luis Castillo, I mean, he was on the mound last night. He had his way with the Yankees lineup. And the Yankees are going to see 3 very good pitchers for the Mariners in this series. And, some people looking at this as, potential ALCS preview. But, yeah, the Yankees just couldn't get anything going against Castillo. They picked up a gift as a hit late in the game. As, again, Castillo couldn't field the ball cleanly, and it ended up being a single instead of an error. Ben Rice then got the Yankees' first legit hit, which was a single later on in the game. They played a little bit of small ball. Ahmed Rosario came up, for McMahon, sac fly to tie the game at 1. But like I said, Yankees just couldn't get anything going. And then we get to the bottom of the 9th inning. Paul Blackburn's in, gives up a couple of hits. Runners at the corners. Cal Raleigh comes up. Kind of figured in that spot you knew he was going to be due. And that's what happened. Yankees lose a close game. But again, all the talk today is it's on Aaron Boone. What is Aaron Boone doing? Why is Paul Blackburn in the game? Look, am I a huge fan of Paul Blackburn being in that spot? No. But at the same time, it's game 4 of the season. Yankees only scored 1 run last night. If the Yankees were up in that situation, David Bednar would have came into the game. But that didn't happen. Now, if the Yankees would have went to extra innings, I'm almost immediately expecting them to lose in extra innings because that's just how it's been since the Yankees, since the ghost runner was brought to the table, was installed. So the Yankees probably would have lost that way. But it never got to that point. They ended up losing in the bottom of the 9th inning. But yeah, and this is the same criticism that, Mark DeRosa was facing in the World Baseball Classic. Why wasn't Mason Miller put in the championship game in the top of the 9th inning in a tie game? It's not a safe situation. Similar situation there. But yeah, if the Yankees were able to hit last night and maybe scratch across another one and have a 2-1 lead going into the bottom of the 9th, well, guess what? David Bednar's coming into the game. One thing I do worry about, I worry about this every year when it comes to the bullpen, is the overuse of the bullpen. I mean, they are using the bullpen a lot. Even in the Giants series. I mean, they're asked to get, 15 outs. It's a lot to ask for, pretty much. Around a little less than that, but part of the reason is these starters aren't fully built up. And once Garrett Cole comes back and Carlos Rodon comes back, and Cam Schlittler and Fried are all built up, I'm expecting these guys to... I mean, Cole, obviously, he hasn't pitched in a year, so it's going to take some time. But once these guys are all fully built up, I expect these guys to give the Yankees length and preserve the bullpen. Because that is going to hurt them later in the year. Is having all these guys are pitching great right now. Jake Bird, he's been great so far. Tim Hill, we know what he does. I mean, everybody's been perfect. Paul Blackburn's the first one to give something up. But Paul Blackburn and Ryan Yarbrough was going to come into the game if the game was tied still, if the game advanced, because he was warming up. Those are the long reliever guys that the Yankees have in the bullpen. Bullpen got a little thin last night, so Boone was trying to, squeeze more out of him because of who was available or who wasn't available at the time and the situation. And look, there are decisions that Boone has made over the years that you can criticize, but where we are in the season and the offensive output or lack thereof that the Yankees put up last night, that is what you should be focusing on. It should not be on, well, why is Paul Blackburn in? Boone lost us the game with that decision. No, the Yankees offense lost the game last night for them. They didn't hit. They could get nothing going last night. That's what you got to focus on. So I am not going to put this blame on Boone. It's on the Yankees offense. Guys got to wake up. That's the bottom line. But you should remain positive and say, hey, this pitching staff so far has been great. And it's only going to get better. And guess what? Guys in that lineup, Judge is going to wake up. Jazz is going to wake up and have a big year because it's a contract year. Stanton looks good. Like, then this offense is going to start clicking. And then all of a sudden, Yankees look like a really good team. And they're going to be a really good team this year. I picked them to win the division. Then, when we get to the playoffs, we'll see what happens. But everybody just needs to calm down. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. These are the type of games that will frustrate fans. But they just focus on, because it's Boone, Paul Blackburn. Yeah, that's why they lost. No. They went 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position last night. Again, it's very short season so far. 4 games in. You look at some of the batting averages for these guys. These guys are just not hitting. I mean, if you look across baseball, there's a lot. You look at some of the batting average of some other guys. There's a lot of guys that aren't hitting. Cal Raleigh, who was the runner-up to Aaron Judge last year, he's really done nothing so far this year. They sat him down to start the game. It's like all across baseball, it seems. There's a lot of guys that aren't hitting. It's just the start of the season. Now, we come back, to if another June swoon happens with the Yankees, and some guys aren't hitting still, and the bullpen is starting to show some cracks and things like that, then okay. Once again, everybody, if there's one thing that you should know, you should learn, you should not overreact to things that happen this early into a baseball season. You can react when we are more into the season, when we are deep into the season. Like around the All-Star break, let's say. And then after that. That's when you start to that's when you really have a grasp on what a team is made of. We're 4 games in. Okay? Look, the Yankees bullpen gave up their first run last night. It was Paul Blackburn. Everybody, all the relievers that still got a 0 ERA. That's going to change. Those guys are going to give up runs too. It's not going to be perfect. No team is going to go 162-0. We had like 3 or 4 teams going into last night, that were undefeated. All those teams lost. Dodgers lost. The Blue Jays lost 14-5 to the Rockies. Who saw that coming? It's baseball. Can't overreact this early. Like when we get deeper into the season, you get into October, and there's a move that proves costly, and it's a legitimate time to be critical, then be my guest. But right now, 4 games in, you're not getting that from me. You're not. And Boone also talked about, if he should have walked Cal Raleigh to get, to load the bases to, pitch to Julio Rodriguez. And he said, you try to double him up, you're not going to be able to, because if, there's a ground ball, he's a fast runner, and Cal Raleigh's been struggling. Take your chances. Now, do I think that maybe Tim Hill could have came into the game? I think so. You had some lefties, and they pitched to Cal Raleigh from the right side. Hedrick struck him out, I believe. And he's been good too. He's gotten himself into trouble, but he's gotten out of it. And that's the thing too. There's been traffic on the bases in these games, but the Yankees have been able, for the most part, up until last night, they were able to get out of it. But I feel like that could have been a spot that Tim Hill comes in. I don't know. That's just me. You had Brendan Donovan, a lefty, coming up. I mean, unless you want to mix and match there, if the Mariners had the chance to. I don't know. I would have maybe done that. But again, that's just me. But bottom line is this. Yankees scored 1 run last night. That's why they lost. And if you want to tell me it's anything different, you're wrong. Paul Blackburn. Now, if this was a game that was played late in the season, Yankees need the game to clinch the division, clinch a playoff spot, whatever, then maybe the scenario plays out differently. Maybe they pull Blackburn, they put somebody else in. But it's game 4. Now, every game is important, though. Every game is important. Because look at what happened last year. Yankees had a lot of blown saves late in games early on, and that's what costed them the division, ultimately, when the Yankees and the Blue Jays had the same record. Now, the Blue Jays earned it regardless because they boat raced the Yankees the whole year, basically. So they deserved it. And then what happened in the playoffs? That proved it furthermore. But yeah, it happens, and look, the Blue Jays lost yesterday. Look, we're very early into the season. Now, if the Yankees end up tying with the Blue Jays again, or tying with another team, or they are a game back of a team, or whatever the scenario is, and you want to come back to, well, believe me, there's gonna be plenty of games they can go back to. But if this is the game you want to go back to, then be my guest. But I'm not going to go crazy over it. Some of you guys got to change. You got to change your way of thinking. It's a marathon. And we're just getting started here. So don't get too crazy. The Mariners are a very good team. They had the Blue Jays on the ropes. They were this close to getting to the World Series last year. And they didn't. This is a very good team. They got very good pitching. The Yankees have very good pitching. If the Yankees pitching is going to be like that for the whole year, they can hang with everybody. It's going to come down to the lineup, getting it done in big spots. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think we gotta relax. Gotta relax. We're not at the point where you could start throwing chairs and getting aggravated and posting on social media and tweeting and saying how horrible of a manager Boone is. You're not at that point yet. 4 games in. Let's calm down. But yeah, so Yankees suffered their first loss last night. Mets picked up a win after a frustrating loss, final game of the series against the Pirates. They had a dramatic win on Saturday. Luis Robert hit a walk-off home run on extra innings. They couldn't get the bats going. Final game. They had an opportunity to maybe tie the game. Juan Soto hit a double. They tried to send Lindor to be the tying run. He ended up getting thrown out. Jorge Polanco hit a ball well, but, just missed it. So the Mets ended up losing on Sunday. But yeah, they won last night. They're 3-1 in the young season. Yankees also 3-1. Also, I got to mention the 2 games on Sunday of the Elite Eight. I mean, what a finish, that UConn-Duke game. I mean, that was unbelievable. So I originally had Duke to win the entire tournament in my bracket group. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to change it. And I switched to UConn. So I have UConn against Michigan in the championship. So I'm still alive. But, I mean, it in one of the most unlikely ways. I mean, that was one of the craziest endings you're ever going to see. That kind of reminded me of the Furman, Virginia game from a couple years ago in the tournament. But it was unbelievable. And this is now the second year in a row Duke collapses. And this was probably worse than the one from last year. Has to be. I mean, especially with the game winner, how that unfolded. I mean, they were up, they were up 15 at the half. And then all of a sudden, UConn starts chipping away at the lead. And, UConn did miss a free throw down the stretch. And you thought, oh, that's it. They're going to foul Duke, and then Duke's going to hit their 2 free throws, and that's going to be the end of the game. But that didn't happen. Duke inbounds the ball. They try to pass it up court. Gets deflected. UConn gets it back. Hit a game-winning 3. and they move on, and they have a chance to win yet another championship. They're one game away from getting back to a national championship. And that would be what, the third championship in 5 years? That's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And yeah, it's not looking good for Duke. Just another heartbreaking end to their season. I mean, what do you even say? So that was a crazy ending, and now we'll see what the Final Four has in store. So it's Illinois, the Fighting Illini against UConn. That'll be the first game on Saturday, and then battle the 1 seeds, Michigan against Arizona. So that's going to be a very good game too. So, and then we'll see what happens after that. Unfortunately, I probably won't be able to watch those games because of where I will be. The time difference, I'm going to be 7 hours ahead of these games, so I'll try my best. But I am going to miss those games. Because even on Friday, Yankees have their home opener on Friday. It's going to be 7:30 or 8 o'clock where I am. And games at 1:30 Eastern time. But yeah, the time difference is going to be it's going to be interesting. Because, obviously I'm going to keep up with everything, while I'm away. I'm going to be gone for a week and a half. So, but rest assured I will be keeping up with things. Anything happens, So it'll be kind of like a Yankee, a current state of the Yankees when I come back. Because I'm going to be missing some games while I'm away, of course. But, yeah. And then the draft is coming up in a few weeks. Looking forward to that. Playoffs are around the corner, NBA and NHL. So that is exciting stuff. So that is pretty much it for me. Like I said, I'll be back in a couple weeks. And once I'm back, then of course you'll get your daily Yankee stuff and any other news that breaks along the way. So as always, everybody, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video and to the channel. Make sure to follow us on the social media platforms in the description below and wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us as well. Just look up Infinite Sports and you will find us there. And as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off. Have a good one, and I will talk to you guys next time. Take care.